Friends and residents of Friendship Heights, we're convening our meeting starting right at 6:30 tonight. If I could ask my fellow council members to state their names very clearly, maybe starting with you, Treasurer.
John Conlow.
Francine Klein.
Roy Schaefer.
Martha Solt.
Vic Basil.
Allison Alt.
Al Moeller.
Thank you. Like we often do, we are getting our update from our project manager on Page Park and Red House at the beginning of the meeting. So I'm going to pass the floor to you, Jim, if you, and would you be willing to take a few questions from the audience? Well, it could be a lot of questions from our current audience, but yeah. I can't hear what he's saying.
I don't think he can hear you.
Okay,
Oh, there we go.
lost the end of that, but are you ready for me to go?
Yeah, I was just introducing you that we normally have you at the beginning for your convenience, and I'm asking you whether you would be willing to take some questions from the audience if there are any.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
could you turn the volume up?
Yeah, Julian, just so you know, I can't actually see anything there. I guess that's, okay. So I'll start. I have a few things to report. The Red
Excuse me,
House and the
one
Page Improvement-
second. You can't do anything?
Jim, can you speak louder or maybe closer to the microphone?
Okay, all right. I'm going to turn off because I'm going to, if that's okay, I'll just turn off because I have to get so close. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
So I have two things primarily to report on. It's the Red House and the Page Park improvements. And the Red House, I'll start there, is Managed Homes, who was the contractor, has completed all of the work that they were contracted to do at the property. And I will just say that they were a real pleasure to work with. They were very straightforward, a wonderful, wonderful partner to work with on this project. And I just always appreciate when somebody is as responsive as they are, and it was a real pleasure to work with them. The village is also currently has solicited proposals to paint and take care of some minor repairs on the Red House. There's some shutters that are falling off. There's a good bit of scraping. There's some rotted on the front porch, and we have two proposals right now, and we are expecting more coming up in the next few days, and we'll be able to give you a recommendation at our next meeting, in next month's council meeting. The future tenant has, they are in for permits. They do not have an update exactly when they expect to receive that permit. They have, however, actually ordered kitchen equipment and furniture, so they are moving forward, fully anticipating to be getting that permit in the not too distant future. So that's what I have on the Red House. I can pause if anybody has any questions on the Red House. I'm happy to do that, or if you want me to keep going.
First, I'm going to ask council members, does anyone have a question on or comment on the Red House? It looks like no. Is there anyone here in the room? Looks like there's one question, or one person.
Yes, I noticed on the walk up here that the wooden fence is falling down again.
Okay.
Are you talking on the back of the parking lot or in front?
No, sir, I'm talking about the fence that borders the sidewalk on North Park.
Okay, we've got a note of it, and we'll follow up with that. Do you mind proceeding on Page Park? And I'm also very, very interested in this, whatever legal agreement that will allow us to proceed with our next steps.
So with Page Park, all the plans have been approved, but there has been a fair amount of modifications or kind of wordsmithing back and forth on the right of entry agreement, which the right of entry agreement, as you may recall, is basically allows the county access to your property in order to do maintenance on your bioretention facilities. So we expect that to be approved. I mean, we expected it to be approved a little bit ago, but it from the civil engineer, Jason Azar feels that it's imminent right now. And once we have that, the contractor can make the call to have a pre-construction meeting. And once they have the pre-construction meeting, it probably takes through the steps that the county requires. It'll probably take 2, possibly 3 weeks in order for them to complete all of the county sequential steps that are required in order to actually begin the actual development and the redevelopment of the park. So that's where the permit is. So it's probably 3 weeks away from actually seeing, a little over 3 weeks away from seeing dirt getting moved out there. The neighbor on the 4615 North Park Avenue, I don't know if you're aware that there's a wall that looks like it has started to fail the brick was starting to fail. They believe that it's going to take them about 3 weeks to make those repairs. So given that, it looks like the timing of the repairs as well as the time it takes to mobilize are probably going to coincide and the Page Park construction will not get impacted by the repairs on 4615. So the contracts are in place, everything is moving. Then the last thing is that we have started to collect proposals and information on the play equipment, and Julian will probably, maybe you can, ask the questions or kind of address how best to approach that, how best we can serve you on that one.
Yeah, we talked briefly, but we will have to have public consideration. This is not going to be something you or I or Julian decide, or even our committee. It's got to be broader than that. But
Right.
you say this, Roy's already signed 2 letters. The right of entry agreement, and somehow Montgomery County had issues, wanted it redone. You believe it's imminent. After how many days, like from now, should we elevate this? Because it seems like an unnecessary delay, that if we talk to the right person, they will be able to come up. We have no problem signing an agreement, do we? They're the ones who are having the problems with the language, and I think the village manager wants to add to the conversation.
Just to say that I have reached out to Debbie Spielberg and County Executive's office for some assistance in pushing this along.
Thank
But
you.
it has gone back and forth with just little nitpicky sort of wordsmithing changes, but that we should be done, but I have reached out to Debbie Spielberg.
Thank you for that effort.
But they wrote the letter, right?
Yeah.
They didn't draft it, no.
Oh.
Clark Azar drafted it based
Okay.
on a template that had been approved by the county multiple times. So they thought it was pretty pro forma, but then the county came back with all these changes.
Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's effort to move this along. I see a question from Councilmember Mueller.
Yeah, Jim, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of many delays, and this council and previous councils and the village manager had really nothing to do with this delay, and I presume you've been working with Mr. Azar, and I don't understand why the county has these permit rights of entry all over the county. I would think they have a standard form, and all we had to do was sign it. There's nothing that we can do about this, but it seems to me that the mayor signed, as he said, not once, but twice. It's a waste of time, and it was at least a month that we've been getting reports from the manager that this has been back and forth and back and forth. Have you noticed this from the county in similar things? Have you not had anything similar to this?
The right of entry is not as common as one would think, because the right of entry basically allows the county to go anywhere throughout and anywhere onto your property, where most other institutions will have a very, very precisely prescribed easement to the metes and bounds of the limits of that easement. And so it's not terribly uncommon, but it's not that, it's not as common as you would think. So why they did what they did, it is so many times, it's part of the challenges of working in Montgomery County is each reviewer has their own subjective way that they look at it. And it does do this, and it does this in a way that is actually very typical in the county and that not pleasant to any owner.
Well, it's just one of many for the public that's listening, the public that's here. I mean, one of many things. We had one after another of things that were added for us to potentially get a permit, and specifically about the pergola, and the council finally decided it was just delaying the process to take the pergola down. The pergola had never been finally permitted, but then the county had the audacity to say, well, we didn't agree for you to have the pergola, but because it was 4 inches of footing short of what we think it should be, but now you need a permit to demolish it. That seems to me absolutely counterproductive. It's almost like a Saturday Night Live requirement. You can't have this, but since you already have it, now you need a permit to get rid of it.
Right. No, it does feel like you can't just make this stuff up. So,
Well, thank you for your patience, and I hope this is the last time our beleaguered mayor is going to have to sign the same thing.
Next month, it'd be great to have our meeting out on the site. Go there and see all the equipment and see what's going on. But that's
How long will the actual final construction or repair or upgrading actually take?
so after his 3-week period, go ahead, Julian.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say 6 weeks is the estimate that they gave us, but you might have more information.
Right. Yeah. So it's right around. It's going to be 6 to 8 weeks, and it's weather dependent. So, I would probably count on the 8 weeks.
So presumably by the end of August, that means in
Yep.
that timeframe, we really need to, as a council, decide
Yeah.
what type of equipment goes in the play area, which can always be changed, but that has to be done sooner rather
Right.
than later, so there's no more delay.
Agreed. We're starting to
It would be
consider
nice-
that now.
It would be nice, if I may, on that subject, it would be nice if we were able to decide relatively soon on the, excuse me, on the equipment, because they're going to raise the grade of the area where the equipment is going to be placed. And sometimes there are brackets and there are anchors and there are
Right.
things that they fasten to. It would be nice to get all of that into the ground, all that done, so that when they come in to bring the surface material and the underneath the play area, that we don't have to redo work.
Understood, and we're going to get on that. Thank
Yep.
you. Are there any other questions or comments from council members about Page Park? Anything from people sitting in the room with me? Doesn't look like it. I think you're off the hook, Jim, now. Thank you.
Run my
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
You too. The next is Chair's announcements, very few. Like to congratulate the Carlton for receiving an award for reducing the volume of its solid waste. I think it's the only building in this area that's, when I say in this area, in the village that's achieved that goal. Most of us know that the biggest topic now that many people are talking about is development. So be prepared for our Chair of Development to be allocated lots of time on this topic. And just thanks to all the people who work hard to improve our life here in the village. Some of them are serving in roles like sitting up here or being on committees, and other people are doing things we don't even know about. So thanks to everyone. And I think, are there any comments? Okay. One comment, Mr. Dorsey, would you like to go to the microphone?
Yes, good evening. Let me start out by pointing out that I'm an art lover. This beautiful, beautiful installation here this evening. I expect by now the council is aware of the petition that was put together at my building, 4620, to install a sculpture in Page Park. Having said that, I attended the meeting last Wednesday where council members Solt and Basile were at our building. I went to that meeting thinking that we would hear about a concept for an installation of a sculpture. However, what I found out was a lot more than that. Apparently, the artist has been selected. The sculpture has been selected, apparently 15 to 18 foot stainless steel sculpture to be placed in the park. The artist who was at the meeting and did the presentation is very accomplished worldwide, all across this country. Showed us many different pieces that he's done around the country and, as I said, around the world. Unfortunately for me, the one sculpture he had, to me, looked like a big stainless steel sculpture of Gumby. I told him, I didn't say that to him, but I told him it wasn't, out of all the things he showed us, would be my selection. And he said, of course, art is subjective, and I understand that. But the point is, if they've selected the artist, they've selected the sculpture, they've selected the material, surely you're aware of that. I just think that if you're going to spend $50,000 or $60,000, first of all, let me just say that I thought the process should be more open, where there's got to be any number of great sculptures around Washington, D.C. in this area that we might put out an RFP or something of that nature. But having said that, if we're going to spend that type of money on a sculpture for Page Park, I would like to see you focus on North Park Avenue, the tree boxes between the sidewalk and the curbs, where for the last 2 years it's basically mud when it rains and dirt if it's not raining. So I have some concerns about the process for the sculpture, and I'm sure you're aware of it. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could comment back on that, other than the accomplishments of the artist, I don't know of, there has been no selection, I don't know what you're talking about. That has not happened from here.
Well, you were at the meeting.
I know I was at the-
He had the example of the sculpture that all the people were praising there.
So they can praise things. That doesn't mean we've selected it.
I didn't say that you've already approved it. I just said I'm surprised at the process.
I had nothing to do with the process. I was invited to the meeting.
Okay, so
So
you're taking Pontius Pilate route, you don't know anything about it?
Meaning
Meaning you're
what?
washing your hands of it?
Nobody knows anything about it
Nobody knows anything about it.
because it hasn't happened.
Have you got the petition?
Nobody's given us a petition.
So they invited you to a meeting at our building where a petition was taking place up, and they didn't even share the petition with you?
I never got it.
None of you.
No.
Well, if you're going to attend meetings that you don't know what they're doing or what it's about,
I
that's your
think
business.
that the purpose of the meeting is to explain what they're doing.
Well, I thought
And-
the purpose of
and
the meeting
I
was
underst- I
to see a
understood-
concept, but
I-
it wasn't. Clearly, they had the material, they had a copy, an example about this tall, and at the meeting, and showing pictures of it as well on the big screen and so forth. So,
Okay.
I don't know, you apparently didn't know what you were there for. I can't say anything about that. But I just don't think the process.
I agree.
If a petition is
That is
taken
not-
up, all of you should know about it, is
Well,
what I'm saying.
I haven't heard of I haven't received a petition, but I agree it should be an open process. Councilmember Mueller?
I still would like to see
Councilmember Mueller, please?
No, I must say, I don't know anything about this, and if it's true, as Mr. Dorsey alleged, that there were two council members present, one of whom lives in the building, I would have hoped, or certainly going forward, when council members get information that sounds pretty important to me, that it be conveyed to the other council members. I mean, if I'm suddenly asked now about this, except for what was just said tonight, I would have said what I knew, which was, obviously, the council hasn't discussed this at all, but please, colleagues, if there's something that anyone hears, that's why we have a Friday memo. The information needs to get back to Julian so it can be shared with all the council members. I think that should be self-evident. We have a memo for public watching this. We have a memo every Friday to all of us from the village manager alerting us on what's been going on, and that's so we all will be aware of things and won't be caught unawares and look like bumpkins when someone asks a question about it. So going forward, I know, and everyone
I
knows
hear
we
your
have a-
concern, but it was a meeting of one condo association
to which apparently you were invited.
by Vic.
Well,
You know, I'm invited to things too, and people want to speak to me. That's part of what I do as a council member. And I don't have to report that back to everyone else unless there's some reason to do it. And in this case, the idea that Martha or Vic or anyone else on the council has selected a sculpture, it's just not true. I know you did, I didn't you,
Running in our building, so don't put something out there on the floor that's not accurate.
excuse me, I was speaking. The idea that anyone, because you're not the only person who may say things, would suggest that the council has made a decision on this is inaccurate, and it will be a broad selection process if we get to that point, but we don't have the park open yet. And I think there's a rush to get the sculpture before we actually have yes. Well, I don't agree with that either. I want to see the park, and I want to be able to be in it before I have ideas about what should go there in the way of a sculpture.
That's the plan, to my knowledge.
and I agree with.
Yeah. Our
with
goal is to get the park
Councilman
open
Klein.
and not change our plan with DPS. That just would set us back.
Well, I hope the people in 4620 and the sculptor, who I understand from previous reports by the village manager, lives in Somerset, and that's all the council officially knew about this. The council officially knew about this. All I'm saying is, if there's more additional information, this is a big enough, important thing, especially since it concerns Page Park. Please let your colleagues know and not have to wait until until we're hearing it for the first time. At least some of us are hearing it for the first time.
Other comments from council members? Okay, the next thing is the village manager's report.
Yeah, a few items. Tricia Fredley began as our new assistant program director. She began last week. She's off to a great start. She's taking some training and will be hopefully fully onboarded pretty soon. So we're very pleased to have her on our team. Hanging baskets.
I could just say I met her and she seems very pleasant and.
Very nice, yes, thank you. Hanging baskets were installed, I think the week before last, but we do have some concerns about lack of watering, and I've reached out to the contractor because they're new at this contract, and advised him, especially with the weather that we've been having with the drought, that they need to water these baskets multiple times a week, so that has started to happen, but some of them might need to be replaced because of the lack of rain, but we'll continue to monitor that. And I'm sure Councilmember Klein will discuss this at length, but just a reminder about the planning board reveal of their recommendations tomorrow at 6:30 at the Wisconsin Place Rec Center, and this is open meeting. I think it's recommended that you register in advance. But I will be there, and I'm sure council members will be there as well to follow up and hear about the recommendations. Also, we have a parking survey that's on our website. We are looking for feedback. The Policies and Procedures Committee would like feedback about parking preferences and parking availability and what people would feel about potentially having to pay for parking. We've received some responses already that we will share with the council. The survey will be running for the month of June. Thank you.
Are there any questions or, Councilmember Mueller?
I thank the village manager for initiating a reminder to the new contractor about the hanging baskets. He or they are new to this, and it's not as easy as it looks. I know they were the lowest bidder, but I think this is one example of inexperience, showing a reason that one has to consider things in addition to the lower cost. This hasn't happened in the past because every year it gets hot, and every year those baskets have to be watered, and watered enough times that the people planting them know how long it takes. The ones particularly, and I haven't made a tour of the village, but the ones particularly in front of the Elizabeth looked a little fried, not wilted, but dead. And they definitely do need to be replaced, and I'm glad the manager's on top of this. It's not his fault, but I think this is a new contractor, and nobody's perfect, but they have to spend time checking and double checking and not necessarily wait for the manager to tell them the plants are going. So thank you again, Julian, for checking on that, and I presume they will replace the baskets that are wilted or dead.
Other comments or questions from council members?
Yes, we got new plantings at the Elizabeth this year as well, and a new landscape person. And some of what they planted is dead also. It's just the nature of what occurs. So I'm not at all surprised that there may be some plants. I thought you were going to say, Al, that it looks beautiful, because from my perspective, it does. So thanks very much for giving them direction on what to do. And I thought it's very nice.
Thank you.
Others? I think we move on to the treasurer's report.
Mayor's
I'm
announcements.
sorry, mayor's, I can't read. Okay, mayor, then treasurer, okay?
Thank you. Two announcements. One, please join us for our annual Independence Day celebration on Saturday, July 4th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Village Center and outside in Humphrey Park. Announcements will be posted on the village website through our email and text alert system and in the newsletter. The only thing I wanted to add is just to congratulate all of our recent graduates, the ones who have graduated, the ones who are about to graduate, their friends, families, supporters. Congratulations.
Treasurer's report. Treasurer Conlow, please.
Okay, thank you. In the 11 months through May, we're in pretty good shape. Revenues totaled 2.8 million, expenditures totaled 2.4. So we have an operating surplus at the end of May of 355,000. Capital expenditures totaled 497, mainly for Page Park, the Red House, and the Village Center. That's so far this year. Basically 11 months out of 12, so we're almost at the end of the year. Reserve funds totaled 4.7 million. That's slightly less than the 4.8 million we started the year with, but pretty close. That's the good news. The not quite as good news is the trends are a little bit concerning. Revenues are down slightly from the same period last year. Expenditures are up close to 6% compared to last year. So we are already seeing what amounts to a budgetary equivalent of stagflation. Revenues are declining, costs are increasing, and that's likely to continue given the state of the economy. So we have some challenges going forward. We can talk more about that later in the agenda when we review the FY27 proposed budget. But one of the issues I'm already thinking about for the upcoming year is the need to plan carefully and well in advance on how we handle potential budget shortfalls in FY28. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask a question on your, I can't remember the word, the amount of money that's left for the rest of the year? Did you include the costs of the people going to MML? Or is that netted out later? Probably later, right?
I'm not sure.
Do you understand my question? I'm not being very articulate.
I don't think those
Not
costs have
fully.
hit the budget yet.
Okay. Or,
The expenses for the
yeah,
MML
that's what I mean,
conference?
expenses for MML.
And what about them? Are they,
They haven't been booked, in essence, booked yet, right?
some of them have.
Some of them have.
They're, we have to register for the conference in advance, and you pay for that in advance. The hotel bill will be charged on the credit card after we leave, so that will be later. But yeah, some of the expenses are current fiscal year have been booked.
Okay. But that is kind of expensive, so that might use up some of that, those funds.
Madam Chair, you're talking about the
Maryland.
meetings, not the membership.
The conference, do we call it conference? Of the Maryland
Conference,
Municipal League
yes.
that a number of us are going to in Ocean City in
Next week.
June, soon, okay.
Next week, yes.
Any other questions or comments? I'm just making sure, anybody who wants to ask questions of our treasurer, okay. Moving on to the big issue of the day, development.
Well, development has been very busy, and I want to thank the Willoughby in particular, 4620 and the Carlton. The Willoughby has taken the lead in bringing a number of the buildings together, and we really have a grassroots effort underway. A number of people who are concerned about what's happening on the Geico property in the way of the demolition, and also others who are concerned about the sector plan. I want to start with the demolition because a number of residents believe that there should not be a demolition of the Geico building. I agree with them that if I had my druthers, the building would not be coming down, it would be repurposed. Unfortunately, the preservation group at the planning board did not assess the building for purposes of historic preservation, and even if they had, it's not a foregone conclusion that they would have decided to repurpose it, given the expense involved in doing that. So the decision was made by Parks and Planning in November of '25, despite testimony by me and others that the building would not be repurposed, but rather it would be demolished. When it comes to demolishing a building of the age of the Geico building, which was built in 1959 and 1964, you need to make certain that contaminants such as asbestos are properly removed, and part of that is a survey that's done in advance of any demolition. The state of Maryland actually is responsible for dealing with asbestos remediation, and I have no reason to believe that they are not overseeing the process. But it is true that residents have seen a good deal of debris coming out of the building and have expressed concern to both the Department of Permitting Services and also the Department for Environmental Protection in the county. Those are the two county agencies. The state agency is the Department for the Environment. And all three agencies know that we are concerned about it. They've been put on notice, and I believe that they will fulfill their obligations to ensure that the process that needs to take place will occur in the natural order. And Geico is aware of that. They have to be aware of this. They have good lawyers. And the other group that's involved is Berg, which is the demolition company. So as hard as it is to see the building come down and then hear the noise, we are in the process of the building being demolished. And I wish it were otherwise, but they got permission back in 1998. It was always contemplated that the building would come down, and I believe that is what's going to happen. I don't see anything to stop it. The litigation that we brought, that the village brought, is not about the demolition. It's about what goes on the property after the demolition. And that also was determined in 1998 when binding elements, which are very detailed, were put into place after a negotiation by Brookdale, the village, and Geico, and a hearing examiner who took evidence, and then a vote by the district council, which put the binding elements in place in writing back in 1998. And every time that Geico has gotten a preliminary plan, their first initial preliminary plan extended, including in November 2025, that set of binding elements, which exists in perpetuity according to its terms, was again put forward. There are various provisions about the binding elements that make it explicitly apply to any successor for Geico, and that includes EYA. And Geico had the responsibility to tell EYA about the binding elements in their contract, and EYA has a legal responsibility to follow the binding elements. Now, EYA doesn't think it does, and that's what the lawsuit is about. EYA has asserted in filings that the binding elements don't apply. First, they said it's because they filed a new preliminary plan. Then they said it was because a 2014 rezoning of the county negated the binding elements. And now they say they've substantially complied with the binding elements, and that's all they need to do. We don't agree with any of these assertions. A new preliminary plan does not negate the binding elements. That's why they're binding. That's why they exist in perpetuity. That's why Geico had to tell them that it was their responsibility to follow the binding elements. With regard to the 2014 rezoning, that doesn't apply because at the same time that that rezoning took place, on the same effective date, the county council included provisions which explicitly said that any binding elements put into place for a local map amendment, which is what Geico got, continued to apply to any development of the property. So they explicitly were told in 2014 that the binding elements still applied. Finally, there is no such thing as substantial compliance with a binding element. That term is used when you deal with the master plan. It's not used when you're dealing with a specific local map amendment that had binding elements imposed on the development. And the reason for those binding elements was to ensure that the surrounding communities were not adversely affected by the development, but that the development would enhance the community. Of course, the development itself would be a benefit, and it would not undermine the health and well-being of the surrounding communities with regard to a number of different issues, including traffic mitigation. So for all of these reasons, when you say, as EYA has said, that they want to put up a 7-story building, and it explicitly says in the binding elements that the building should not exceed 4 stories, there is an issue with compliance, and that is not the only issue. We have been working very closely and carefully with other residents in the village, including the Willoughby, and also with Brookdale. And the suit has been served on the parties, EYA, the planning board, and the county council. And the filing for response is due on June 18th, so we will see what they say on June 18th. And that's it for my general summation. Tomorrow, because of folks at the Willoughby who have taken the lead in organizing, there will be a rally at 6 o'clock at the corner of Willard and Friendship Boulevard. And this is a little before the meeting gets started at 5311 Friendship Boulevard to talk about the new sector plan. So I will be there, and I know others will be there as well. And folks who want to come and show their support for maintaining and preserving the village without any new high-rise buildings and dealing with the binding elements on the Geico property are welcome to come and show their support. And that's my report, Martha.
Thank you. Council members, just first, a big thank you. It's such a heavy lift, and I don't think we could do this without you personally, and I greatly appreciate it. I think the other council members do too. Questions or comments from council members? Is there anyone here in the room that would like to ask a question or make a comment? Quiet as a mouse tonight. Okay, I think we're moving on to the Policies and Procedures Committee. Councilmember Basil?
Thank you. The Policies and Procedures Committee met on June 1st, and the committee developed proposals for consideration by the council on staff salaries and separately the village manager's salary for FY 2027. The proposals will be considered by the council consistent with the Open Meetings Act, meaning that some of the issues will be in an open meeting and some will be in a closed meeting. At a prior meeting, we considered the issue of posting public comments on the village website, and we concluded that it is not practical at this time. Unlike private entities, governments must maintain viewpoint neutrality. They may not delete any comments, even if they are inappropriate, contain foul language, or false content. And finally, private entities have much more flexibility on maintaining community listservs and websites. We also discussed, but took no action on the idea of providing extended hours of street parking for service workers, such as contractors, housekeepers, and home health care workers. That's my report.
Thank you, council members. Questions or comments? Okay, and once again, our treasurer is up to the microphone about the Finance Committee.
Thanks, Martha. So briefly, the Finance Committee met at a special meeting on June 3rd, and they voted to recommend the FY27 proposed operating and capital budgets. The one caveat is the capital budget has since been, the proposed capital budget, I should say, has since been revised because the preliminary results of the pedestrian safety study, including cost estimates, just became available late last week. So we'll talk more about that when we're reviewing the budget, but that's basically it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. It looks like we have no old business, and we have 4 items under new business. The first is salary adjustments for employees excluding the village manager, and I believe the Policies and Procedures Chair will take the lead on that.
I'd like to make a motion that, one, increase the base salaries of all village employees, excluding the village manager, by 3% effective July 1, 2026. And 2, establish a discretionary merit pool equal to 1% of the aggregate current base salaries for those same employees to be allocated by the village manager at his sole discretion.
I'm on the committee. I'll second that motion. Discussion? Councilmember Mueller?
Chair Basil, the 3% is intended to be the inflation change?
Yes.
Excuse me, could you talk a little closer to your microphone? I'm afraid that the,
I'm going to swallow it if
yeah, I
get
know,
any closer.
sometimes the transcript doesn't pick it up.
I was asking if the 3%, correct me if I'm wrong, the 3% represents an inflation adjustment, and the 1% is essentially at the discretion of the village manager related to merit.
Correct.
Oh, thank you.
Other comments or questions? I think we're ready to call for the vote. I'll restate the motion. It's to increase the base salaries of all village employees, excluding the village manager, by 3% effective July 1st, 2026, and establish a discretionary merit pay pool equal to 1% of the aggregate current base salaries of those same employees to be allocated by the village manager at his sole discretion. So all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. And it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. We move on to our second item, which relates to the operating and capital budget. So, Treasurer Conlon.
Okay, thanks, Martha. Let me get in the FY27 proposed operating budget that was approved by Finance, or recommended by the Finance Committee, I should say, operating expenditures total approximately $2.95 million. That represents an approximate 6.6% increase over the current full-year forecast based on figures through May. That is about double the rate of inflation based on data through March. The main reason for that is that estimated salaries and benefits are up about 10%, but that 10% figure includes the new hire in police costs, which makes the increase this year higher than it was last year because the base didn't include the new hire or the police for the full-year contract. So on an adjusted basis, not including police and new hires, the increase is approximately 4.3%. And that reflects salary increases due to inflation and the additional adjustment to bring selected salaries in line with comparable positions. And on the income side, revenues are estimated at approximately $2.97 million, which represents an approximate 5.5% decline from the most recent current year's estimate. And that reflects, in part reflects a slowing economy, but also probably a little bit to do with the government shutdown and layoffs. So the bottom line essentially is that expenditures are rising, revenues are declining, but we still have a slight surplus in FY27 estimated at $15,000. So that's good. And again, as I mentioned before, there's a longer-term issue of where things are headed in FY28 and beyond. And as I noted earlier, we're seeing what amounts to the budgetary equivalent of stagflation. And if that continues, we're going to have some difficult issues to deal with in FY28 and beyond, and we need to plan for those potential possibilities. And that might include a combination of tax increases and expenditure cuts, but we don't know yet how to balance that out. But it's something we need to be thinking about. Any comments on the operating budget before I continue to capital?
I don't know if it's, it might be whatever. You mentioned that you got new costs for the safety
Pedestrian.
study, and you just included them Friday night. Are they in our note? Is that what's in our notebook?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. Al had a question as well.
First of all, I thank the treasurer. I know this has been a lot of work and time and effort, and has been ably assisted by Donna.
I'm very sorry. You're not close enough to the mic.
I'm very close to it, madam.
I'm looking at your mouth compared to where the mic is.
Okay. I was thanking the treasurer and his assistance from Donna, and I would simply repeat that these are the best guesstimates. For instance, the income tax is dependent on how many of our high rollers are still living here and not getting enough deductions that they'll still give this high amount because there's basically a few people who are paying a whole lot and then a whole bunch of other people that are paying not as much. Julian does get help concerning the estimates from the state. I know he goes up there to get those, and I don't know when he will be doing that, but that gives, once the budget is actually already done, some idea of how much on track we're going to be. When do those estimates get done, Julian?
We receive the income tax estimates in December, typically around the middle of December. And we typically plug in the exact estimate in the budget. They give us a range of scenarios, but we usually take the middle the middle range, which assumes 0 growth. There's a few scenarios that assumes 5 or 10% growth, or 5 or 10%
So we're-
reduction, but we usually use the middle.
We're using last year's December estimates from the state to project the budget. And sometimes we're pleasantly surprised when we then get the follow-up in the actual year. Is that correct? Okay. No, that's all I had to say, and thank you again.
I have a question, Madam Chair. I know that the police have talked to us about their salaries too, because we have a number of police officers who are part-time employees of the village, and our increase in pay for employees didn't include them. So how are we going to handle that request?
I talked to Julian a little bit about this, that I think what we need, the police originally asked for what amounted to a 12% increase. Julian suggested that maybe we should think about a 3% increase, similar to what we're proposing for other employees based on inflation. However, I think we need some sort of process in place that defines how we're going to evaluate police performance. We haven't done that yet, and I feel pretty strongly that we need to do that before we agree on a pay increase. And so, having said that, I do think that we could expedite that process. It doesn't have to be over a full year. We could start looking at it fairly quickly.
Well, I don't think that we should put a process in place necessarily to evaluate the police officers, because the whole point of hiring the lieutenant was that he has the expertise to evaluate the police officers, and he's picking the people who serve us. And so the responsibility is his to make sure that they act in accordance both with their regulations on use of force, for instance, and their ethical standards. And so I think we should ask him what he thinks of the police officers, but he's their supervisor, and I wouldn't have any ability to substitute my judgment for his as to how well they're doing. He also has access to their records if there's any issues with their performance as regular police officers, and he would take that into account in making certain that they may not work for us then if it's a serious issue, pending matter. And again, that's not something I have visibility into or even would want to have visibility into. So I don't see that as a good approach. I know we haven't had a chance to talk about this, but maybe others have a feeling about it.
May I suggest maybe we're ready for your motion? I don't think you've made the motion yet, is that right? About approving the budget?
My motion, the way I thought about it was we do operating and capital budget motions together.
Okay, but could you state your motion, please?
Well, I haven't talked about the capital budget.
Okay, normally you make the motion and then motion, second, discussion. But, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so next up is the discussion on the capital budget. So this is the first year we've incorporated a detailed description of capital projects with estimated budgets and out-year costs that also has been included in your packets. I view this as an important element in developing a sort of comprehensive capital budget and plan, tracking project and managing costs. So the FY27 proposed capital budget, including the revisions to pedestrian safety for FY27 totals $825 million. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, sorry. 825,000. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Sorry, 825,000. Oh boy. Okay.
I think we could buy the
Sorry, I apologize for that. So 450,000 of that amount is for Page Park. It includes 190,000 payment to Green Sweep for prior work completed, 183,000 for ADA improvements and stormwater management, an additional 75,000 for play equipment, park furniture, and project management fees. The Village Center and Humphrey Park, we're currently estimating at 200,000 in FY27 and an additional 50,000 in FY28 for a total of 250,000 over 2 years for plaza waterproofing, fountain repairs, replacement of lighting fixtures, park furniture, and other village center improvements. Pedestrian safety, this is the difficult one. We just got a report with total costs essentially raising, based on my preliminary look at it, from about 250,000 to 536,000. So the reason for the difference is that, primary reason for the difference is they're talking about two different options. Okay, one option is to build out the two intersections here on Friendship Boulevard with South Park and North Park with what they call extended sidewalks, or bump outs, as they're sometimes referred to, extending the sidewalks out so pedestrians have more visibility to oncoming traffic and that sort of thing, similar to what's right here at South Park and Hills Plaza. So one way to do that is to build it out with concrete, similar to the way it's typically done. Another lower cost option is to use heavy-duty planters that you put into the street and that basically serve as a something that allows pedestrians to step out and gives cars greater visibility. I think we have a little bit of work to do to figure out what's the best possible option. I don't know the answer to that. I think there's a lot of we need to have a lot of discussion about that. There's also a lot of other things that they're recommending, including, basically reline striping everything in the village, and also installation of new signage, quite a bit of new signage, mostly new signage, and there are options with respect to signage as well, whether we use just plain signs or whether we use some sort of flashing signs. And there's also options on what type of flashing signs. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm hoping that we're going to be meeting with the traffic group before too long to discuss those options and get their input. And so we'll come back to you hopefully within the next a couple of weeks and see if we can come up with some sort of a more detailed estimate. Julian, any thoughts?
Yeah, we have the draft that has been circulated sort of internally, so we do have to just decide on feedback initially, and then we can set up a meeting with them and get some more thoughts in front of them. Thanks.
Yeah, can I ask that we see examples of what it looks like? I know they'll bring those in paper, but if they have any addresses or intersections where we can see the different suggestions they're making, I would like to see those for myself and the community, and, drive around and see what I think, how it works as a pedestrian and how it works as a driver.
Okay. Okay, so any further questions?
I just want to commend you for your hard work on this, and I really believe a capital budget is in our best interests. And I appreciate and agree with you that we should be analyzing, not making decisions on a whim. So I appreciate that, and I think we would all welcome your motion.
Okay, so I move to approve the operating and capital budgets as presented, with the caveat that the capital budget may need to be revised at a later date, subject to council approval after more review and discussion of pedestrian safety options. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Martha.
I just have to say, I'm a little concerned we are not putting dollar amounts in here, so somebody reading this might not know what we approved. how do you feel about adding some, what the total operating budget is and what the,
Well, I'm happy to do that. I mean, it's a total.
could I pause for a second? Village manager, is that important? Do you think?
But which dollar amounts are you referring to
I
that are
mean, this
missing?
just says, I agree with this, that we're approving the operating budget and the capital budget, but it doesn't say the amounts in the motion. Is it important to say what the total is that we're approving? The dollar total?
In the motion?
Yeah.
I don't think so necessarily, because
Okay.
there's a lot of different numbers in a budget. So,
Okay,
and
okay.
it will be published,
Okay,
yeah.
let's go forward then. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I just want to make a couple of observations. We have, through the 11 months of this year, when you include capital expenses, a deficit of $141,000. Does that sound right?
That does sound, that does sound right. I would just say that I don't, in the way I think about it, and often the way it's traditionally done, you don't count capital as part of the deficit. The capital is financed through your reserve funds, and there is an operating surplus and deficit.
Okay, but I'm just trying to show our total income less our total expenses, whether you want to include it or not. As of right now, it's negative $141,000 for the year. We don't have the final numbers. It's almost certainly going to be over $100,000. Next year, the budget we're about to vote on, when you include capital expenses, we're projecting to spend about $800,000 more than we're taking in. And admittedly, that includes a lot of one-time expenses. The following year, the budget we're going to vote on next year, the 2028 budget, we're already projecting $170,000 capital expenses, and that includes the low end of the estimates for pedestrian studies. So our cash balances, as the treasurer's pointed out, are declining. They're projected to continue to decline, and I want to make two observations about that. One, the expression, and I've heard it from 3 years from both sides of this table, that we have plenty of money. If that was ever true, it's no longer true. And the other point I want to make is that starting next year, we need to start showing 5-year budgets, capital and operating. As I've said many times, it's a standard practice, it's a required practice for most municipalities, and if we want to be honest and transparent and provide a roadmap to where our finances are heading, and I really don't understand what the objection to doing this would be. We need 5-year estimates, and that's something next year I'm going to push for.
Colleagues, are we ready to vote, or do you want to make a comment?
Just one
Sure.
quick comment, that the capital budget and plan that's in your binder does include 5-year estimates. The only thing that's missing is 5-year estimates for the operating budget.
Right, which is the large majority of what we spend money on.
Right, but I
Okay.
think this is an issue that we can talk about.
Right, and it's a great start, and I appreciate that you have done a lot of work, and now we need to fill it out for the rest of the budget.
Councilmember Mueller?
Yes, thank you. I respectfully disagree if I understood correctly, and maybe I didn't, what the mayor just said. We have two budgets. We have a capital budget and we have an operating budget. The operating budget for this year is balanced and there's a small surplus. The operating budget shows 3 or 4 items, all of which, if you add them up, are less than what we have in the capital reserve fund. It too is balanced. If, however, you do what the mayor just suggested and take what we're going to spend at some point, which is not decided yet, in the capital budget and put it in that year's operating budget, well, of course you're going to have a deficit. But the capital budget we look at separately. And when we take money out of the capital budget, if we have enough money in there for that project, it's balanced. So I respectfully disagree. We have enough money to do the operating budget this year, and so far as I can see, unless we change it by needing to either increase our income or decrease our expenditures, it will be balanced in the next few years. If it ever looks like it's not going to be balanced, we have the option of raising the taxes or cutting some expenses. And the capital budget, we have the option of doing some of these things right away, or next year, or the following year. So I do not see any reason to be concerned, yes, that we're careful, which the treasurer is, but not to think that somehow, through statistical analysis, we're in any trouble. We're simply not. We have enough money for the operating budget, we have enough money for the capital budget, which has $1.2 million in it, and we have another $4.5 million in what we're calling reserve fund. If you want to call that a slush fund, well, go right ahead. It's a reserve fund, and it can come into the operating budget if we want to, and it can come into the capital budget.
May I suggest that a lot of this discussion does not necessarily relate to whether you're going to vote on this motion, so I'm calling for the vote right now? Okay.
Wanted to say
Okay,
something too.
go ahead.
And Martha, respectfully, I do think Al's points are well taken and help enlighten people who may be listening to the discussion, just as the mayor's comments help enlighten people, and you can have a different perspective on this. I am concerned that currently we're voting on something that does not include any additional funds for the police, and I just want to note that for the record, and I would like that to be taken up, as quickly as we can do it, and I'd ask which committee who should be looking at that as an issue. Julian, what was your recommendation on that?
There are 3 committees involved with this: Policies and Procedures, Public Safety, and Finance. The original contract discussions when we were hiring contract police was at Public Safety Committee level. But it could really involve any or all of those 3 as it's relating to salaries and budget. And let me just add one quick point about the police salaries. There are some police officers who would not be eligible for any increase at all right now because they're relatively new hires. So Lieutenant Elkin is going to give us a sort of a list and an accounting of who's on duty right now and how long they've served and which ones would be eligible for raises.
What I'd appreciate from you is a list of the police who would be entitled to an increase and what that increase would cost us. And I
Yes,
still chair the Public and Safety Committee, I think.
He's going to give us such a list, yes.
So if you could get us that number, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Klein, would it make you feel better if we have sort of an informal vote about us being willing to consider
No.
the police, or you,
I'm
okay.
happy to just hold a
in the
committee.
future? I don't mean right now, but in the,
Yes.
in the near future.
Yes.
If anybody objects to that, can you let me know now? Okay, so we will look into this issue in the near future.
Thank
But
you.
we're not making a vote on it right now.
Thank
okay?
you.
So the motion, if I could maybe repeat the motion that's at hand, and it was made and seconded to approve the operating and capital budgets as presented in the notebook, with the caveat that the capital budget may need to be revised at a later date, subject to council approval after more review and discussion of pedestrian safety options. So all those in favor say aye or raise their hand, and it looks like another unanimous vote, so thank you. And again, thank you for all the work. It is not easy, and
Terrific
to
job.
staff members, it's not easy putting a budget together and then getting lots of people to agree on it. That is not easy. So, thank you. The next item is display of the Pride flag at the Village Center during each Pride Month. So I'm happy to make the motion to acknowledge the contributions of our fellow LGBTQ Americans by displaying a Pride flag or banner during Pride Month, effective immediately. Is there a second for that motion? Okay, thank you. We can, if we do a banner, it would probably be right, I hate to point, but right in front.
Well, it's a
Whatever,
banner or a flag?
we figure out works. A banner is like that, and a flag, we'd have to figure it out. But taking advice from, the motion says a flag or banner. Would you like to?
We can do a flag such as this with a separate pole and display it here in the auditorium. We can certainly do
I
that.
think it needs to be outside.
We could put it on the flagpole out in the park. Okay.
Or, that's up for, whatever works, okay?
Okay.
And any discussion here? Or actually, I guess I should state my sort of rationale on this. Many, many places do this. We are committed to maintaining a welcoming and inclusive community, respectful of all people, residents, visitors, and employees. So I think that displaying this flag or banner would be an affirmation of community membership, be consistent with existing inclusion commitments, especially from our anti-discrimination policy. It's consistent with other municipalities, and it costs like next to nothing. So I believe this is the right thing. But I'm happy to hear other comments from people. Are we ready for a vote? All in favor, say aye. Thank
Aye.
you. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. And if, Julian and Jason, if you'd like to talk about, like, how to do it, we can talk about that, or just whatever works, okay? Thank you. And we have one final item on our open meeting. That's letter to County Planning Board seeking a response to the village's objections concerning the construction of additional high-rise buildings on parcels 4 and 6. And that would be Councilmember Conlow presenting this.
Okay, thanks, Martha. Have folks had a chance to look at the letter? Okay. So just real briefly, I'll note that the village submitted a letter to Montgomery County Planning Board in advance of its hearing on the sector plan preliminary recommendations back in February. The issues we raised were not mentioned at the subsequent hearing that they held, nor have we received any response to our letter. The current sector plan was originally approved in '98. It recommends development on parcels 4, fronting the medical building, and parcel 6, west of Shoemaker Farm Lane, be limited to low and mid-rise buildings while preserving significant portions of the sites as parks and open space. The preliminary recommendations in the proposed sector plan that's currently underway overturns the existing sector plan and allows construction of 10 to 15-story high-rises on the 2 sites.
I don't,
Okay.
I'll talk in a minute.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So the letter respectfully requests that the planning board address issues and concerns raised by the village as part of the board's ongoing review of the updated sector plan. And the letter is also intended to document the village's position in writing in case we need to appeal the planning board's final recommendation to the Montgomery County Council later this year or early next. So, any comments?
I have a comment. I may have missed the use of the word mid-rise. Does the letter that we're sending them use the word mid-rise?
I don't believe it does.
Okay, mid-rise, I would not use mid-rise in describing, which we're not doing, anything in writing to the board or even in our discussions, because mid-rise, according to the planning board, is the height of the Carlton, which is over 90 feet. And 90 feet building on North Park Avenue, such as the Carlton, casts a shadow across North Park that completely puts the medical building across the street in shade. That doesn't happen to buildings that are further west of the Carlton because of the low-rise parcel 6. And then, of course, 4620 casts 4615 into shade, and that is a high-rise by anyone's definition of it. So mid-rise does not work, and I don't believe they said mid-rise for the parcel 6 because it's way under, the buildings there now and even buildings under the zoning would be way under a mid-rise.
My understanding, my recollection is, when I read the plan, that they used mid-rise to describe the frontage of the medical building.
Yes.
And low-rise to describe.
Yes.
And
That's,
I'm using,
Yes.
in my comments, I was using those terms to describe both.
yes, and both, they already, they were thinking of a mid-rise on parcel 4, and it would have been separate from the medical building, which they would still leave standing there, and they would have added, they want to add another building onto the lawn and have it be mid-rise. Now, I'm talking about now, and maybe they were discussing that in the past, but it's always been low-rise for parcel 6.
Right. Well, the good news is the letter doesn't describe
Say either
that.
one, so then I'm still in favor of it, thank you.
Okay. So there's a 2-page letter, if folks had a chance to look at it, and there's a 1-page attachment, which is just a kind of summary. So, having said all that, any more comments?
Open to your motion.
Oh, I get confused on
That's
how this.
okay.
Martha, would you take over for me?
No. You don't want that. You really don't. Okay.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. What do I have to say now?
You want to, you move to approve the letter?
Okay, I'm sorry, the comments come after the motion.
Normally, yes, but it's okay.
Okay.
We're among friends, yeah.
Okay, I move to approve the letter as drafted from the mayor to the Montgomery County Planning Board, requesting that the planning board specifically address issues and concerns raised by the village as part of the board's ongoing review and recommendations with respect to the Friendship Heights Sector Plan update currently underway.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Mueller, and then anybody, we're only doing questions and comments that weren't addressed earlier, yeah.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, tomorrow is, when are they giving the park and planning?
They're meeting tomorrow.
Say
And they're
again?
going to be discussing their next recommendations.
Right.
But the letter can go out now. It doesn't, but maybe your idea is that we wait and see what they recommended?
I want to see specifically, because what I'm a little concerned about is the letter rightfully describes our concern with high-rises, but if they come out with essentially what they're terming a mid-rise, say a 10-story, then we need another letter, or we need to
We haven't been
change the
clear
standard.
then,
Can I
yeah.
suggest something? That we approve the letter subject to putting in a reference to mid-rise if it turns out that that's what they're now recommending.
And what's the definition of mid-rise? now?
Mid-rise would be the 90 feet.
The Carlton or shorter?
Except the Carlton is 90 feet. Low-rise is 4 or under. Between and high-rise is more than 10.
But on parcel 6, I thought we wanted nothing more than 40 feet.
Yes, that's right. That's low-rise.
Yeah, so we don't, if
But we could,
We don't want
say
mid-rise.
that we're opposing right now it says we oppose high-rises, right?
yeah, what about we oppose high-rise and mid-rise?
We could say it that way, you're right. We could
Just to
say
be
that we
consistent with
oppose
what you've been putting
high-rises
down.
and mid-rises now. We could say that.
Are you comfortable with that?
I would just point procedurally, I think what we're doing here is we're commenting on the preliminary recommendations and writing back that we haven't received any response to our comments on those recommendations.
I know, but
But-
it's
and so-
awkward because by the time we get that letter out, we've got potentially, I'm pretty certain, going to be another objection if we could hit
So-
them with one objection to both their comments. I mean, it's just another day. If they do what it looks like they're going to do.
Well,
I don't,
I think my preference would probably be to get this letter out, but I'm open to, if you think that that's the better approach, I'm open to that.
well, I would move as an amendment that we add mid-rise or high-rise, or simply say the other way, that we support low-rise on parcels 4 and 6, so we sound more positive.
Is that realistic?
Well,
Because I think.
that's what we're going to be fighting
Because I
for.
think the current sector plan talked about mid-rise on parcel.
No, it doesn't. Not on
Parcel
parcel
4.
6? No, on parcel 6, it says essentially low-rise and parkland. On parcel 4, it says if you want to build anything, you got to knock down the medical building. It
But then
doesn't say
you can build a
anything.
mid-rise, I think is what it said. I could.
I'm
okay.
not, I'm not certain of that.
Yeah.
I really am completely focused on 6, because that's the imminent danger, even more so than Geico, which at least we have some idea what they're doing, although it's gone off the rails.
I do like the idea of getting something out today or tomorrow morning.
Well, I like that too, I'm just saying,
It stands for the principle that they haven't told us.
another day, it's not going to make a bit of difference. They've delayed so long.
Well, another day means we have to redraft, get it reapproval and everything. If they have multiple communication from us, I think that's a good thing. Water erodes rock is the idea, more different ways,
That's my thinking on
communicating.
this.
Well, theoretically, I think it's very, 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 very likely that they're going to come out with something that's mid-rise, 10 stories, 9 stories.
And then we'll go back and say it needs to be low-rise again.
As long as you have some idea of what we might do.
Because what John is saying is they haven't responded to our initial request. And he wants to put us on record as saying that.
Right.
I hear that. They've been at the very least rude, but letting them know that we think that, they already know what we think of them, and it's not a very high opinion.
Okay, could I suggest that, this is not a motion or anything, it's just throwing this out, that we add our objection to mid-rise, say mid-rise and high-rise, it's accurate, and we get it out tomorrow? Does that address
That's fine.
concerns?
It's fine for me.
Does that address your?
Okay.
Okay, yes.
I don't, so then it would be,
How many,
village manager?
just a question about how many references to mid-rise are we putting in here? We need to,
Well, every time it
every
says-
time it says high-rise or mid-rise, but is that,
I think we can let the drafter use judgment.
okay, so John will revise.
Reference to high-rise.
Well, here's high rise. Or do you want to do it right now? It's up to you.
John will revise and we can get it
Oh,
out
I see
tomorrow?
another-
Yeah, yeah, let's do that.
I see
And I'll
two.
run it by you, make sure.
No, don't run it by me. I don't want you to be the holdup here.
Okay. I think we can vote because we know what we mean, right? Do others believe we're ready to vote?
Not build more high-rise.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I am going to call for the vote, which is to approve the letter as drafted from the mayor to the Montgomery County Planning Board, requesting that the planning board specifically address issues and concerns raised by the village as part of the board's ongoing review and recommendations with respect to the Friendship Heights Sector Plan update currently underway. All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. And I think you're approving, right, Francine? And okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And again, I appreciate all the effort drafting this and trying to get our views before decision makers and understanding how important that is for us. So I think this is the end of the public meeting, so we convene that, and I'm going to begin the closed meeting. Oh, that's right. I propose to move to a closed meeting to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, employee, or official over whom it has, I guess we have jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Is there a second on that? Second from, okay, 2 seconds from the treasurer and the Policies and Procedures Chair. All those in favor of going into a closed session, say aye and raise your hand. Thank you very much. And I think maybe Julian, you stay for part of it, and then the beginning, the first part, and then we're addressing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little more comfortable if we go to another room rather than doing it here. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, it's awkward when we do the big rooms.